led to that very tragic, of course, incident on the day that he passed away, which was going back all the way to July 24th, 2016. That Sunday morning when he was brutally murdered. Please take us back to that day, that morning, or maybe the day before. Tell us what, based on what you know, transpired and led to his tragic, death that morning.
Yeah, July 24th was a horrifying day. I don't think I'll ever forget that day for the rest of my life. So that day, from what I remember and from what I've heard, Abdirahman went to a coffee shop where the cops were then called for allegedly calls of misconduct. And so Abdirahman, who suffered with several mental health issues, did not know what to do. So he was really scared from what I've heard and ran home. The distance from the coffee shop to the house is not very far, or from the apartment building is not very far. So he managed to run back home. The police chased him, and once he got to the front of the building, he was then stopped and beat. They had batons, they had metal gloves, and they essentially beat him to death that very day in front of several neighbors, in front of his mother, in front of his brothers. So it was a very, very tragic incident that happened that day.
Were there any were there any witnesses who saw him fighting back or doing something that was physically potentially a threat for police to react in such a brutal way?
So there's actually video footage of this incident happening once he got to the apartment building and stopped. From what I saw, there was a bit of a push from him, but other than that, he was unarmed. He had nothing on him. He posed zero threat to two officers who had guns, batons, and other deadly weapons. He posed no threat whatsoever. And he, of course, in the video, you would see that he didn't fight back. There was nothing that showed that there needed to be that much force. Even the judge who ruled this verdict said that it was most likely that there was excessive force. There was most likely that there was excessive force, and we can see all from that video that there was.
Mm-hmm. And yes, I mean, especially the blows to the face even in the court hearings that actually has been talked about, and it was actually captured, of course, on video as well. Unfortunately, the CCTV video footages of the building. Now, tell us a little bit about his mental health situation. I mean, yes, we are aware that he had mental health issues. Do you know anything about the history of his mental health problems? And how far back, I mean, did he have those mental health issues before he came to Canada back in 2009? Or is that something that was acquired later? And did he ever pose, a threat because of his mental health issues to individuals, to people, or their lives? I mean, I'm just trying to understand how much are people aware, or were people aware of his mental health issues in general?
I'm not too familiar with his history of mental health personally, but from what I know, it was very known in the building that he had mental health issues, and though he did suffer from those mental health issues, he didn't pose a threat to anyone. As I said before, he was known as a kind, gentle man. He went to school nearby, and he from what I know, had no problems at that school, and same as working at a local car wash. So he didn't really have much of a threat on him. From what I know at least, did not have a history of any violence or anything like that.
And from what I understand, he was what was unemployed at the time, but he has worked in the past, as you're saying, the car wash.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all this. And I understand this is not easy to recount and talk about a painful experience involving, a brother in the community, a neighbor, and somebody whose family you knew so closely. So thank you for your time and courage sharing all this with us. We want to talk about, of course, now, what next and what has, of course, transpired since then. So we want to understand what happened, immediately after his passing away, which was, from what I understand, was witnessed by a lot of people in the building. There were people even taking photos afterwards, videos, and of course now footages are there. So what actually happened after, and how did you and the family of Abdirahman Abdi and the community, Canadian Somali community, and the wider community, how did you process his death? And how have you, first of all, dealt with in terms of healing that is so critical in such cases? And then I want to talk about, of course, what led to the development of coalition itself.
Yeah, so going back, so immediately after Abdirahman was pronounced dead, the Somali community came together immediately and decided, what can we do to not only support the family, but how to, address this issue. This is one issue that's happened before in Ottawa, but this has been the first time in a while that we saw police brutality to this extent happen in the city. And for it to happen to one of our own, he was a Muslim, he was Black, he was Somali. That really struck a chord with a lot of people in the city. So the Somali community did come together about 2 days after, 1 or 2 days after he passed away. And so we kind of were we're actually in a Islamic school here in Ottawa. We came together in the gym.